Greetings, fellow detectives. Wizard Kitten here, bringing you a new Nancy Drew analysis video. Today's video is brought to you by the patrons over at Mystique Manor and by all the official Fellow Detective channel members. If you too would like to support the channel and gain access to exclusive features, check out patreon.com/wizardkitten to become a patron, or click join next to the subscribe button to become an official Fellow Detective. Last Tuesday, April 16th, 2024, we received the news we've all been waiting for. Nancy Drew, number 34, Mystery of the Seven Keys, will release on May 7th, 2024. It's not an exaggeration to say that most of the Nancy Drew community was pretty shook by this news. We've been waiting for a release date now for quite some time, and to have it be so soon now is pretty mind-blowing. We've been solving puzzles, speculating, and crossing our fingers for a year. But now it's finally time. So before the game releases, let's speculate one last time. In this video, I'll review my predictions, hopes, and fears for all aspects of the game based on the information that has been shared with us thus far. Since I know many of us are going into this game with expectations and questions alike, I think it'll be helpful to collect our thoughts before we actually get to play it. First, some important behind-the-scenes and administrative updates. Her Interactive has confirmed that there will be no pre-order period and the game will release on May 7th, 2024 in a digital format only for PC and Mac exclusively on their website. However, to honor the collectors and mega fans who still want a physical copy, they plan to do a limited physical release after the May 7th launch. The blog post doesn't specify if Mystery of the Seven Keys will also be available through Steam, but it seems likely that it will be available on Steam at some point since the other Nancy Drew games are as well. As someone who does collect physical editions of the games, I'm so glad that they are doing a limited physical release. This seems smart because, as they acknowledge in their post, demand for physical copies has definitely been lower, so it's a smart business move to make it more of a special exclusive rather than sit around with a bunch of extra copies. Second, let's acknowledge how vastly improved the marketing and release strategy was this time around for Mystery of the Seven Keys as opposed to Midnight in Salem. If you don't remember the travesty that was the Midnight in Salem release, check out my honest review of Midnight in Salem video for all the tea. This time though, the marketing was night and day. Ever since April 1st of 2023, the marketing team has engaged with the fan base, giving us clues, puzzles, countdowns, and exciting reveals. They have celebrated the old Nancy Drew games, haven't backtracked on information, and have been very careful about overpromising and under-delivering. Really, everything about the rollout for Mystery of the Seven Keys has been improved, and this has really helped restore some of my trust as a fan. I feel heard and respected. I feel like the company cares again about the quality of its products, its fans, and the messaging. Instead of going into Mystery of the Seven Keys with a bitter taste in my mouth, like I did for Midnight in Salem, I can confidently say that I am approaching this game with some cautious optimism. And that is entirely thanks to the dedication of the marketing team to restoring trust with the fan base. Now let's talk gameplay elements, starting with puzzles. Based on the trailer and several other teasers that have been shared with us, it seems like Mystery of the Seven Keys is going to have more, and hopefully better, puzzles than Midnight in Salem. It's hard to tell from a trailer alone, but Nancy appears to be interacting more with physical objects and unlocking quite a few puzzles. This doesn't necessarily mean that the unlocking mechanisms will be good, but I think there's a good chance that the puzzles will be improved. I sincerely hope that all the puzzles have a point, no shopping list ciphers please, and that there's a good balance of challenge and fun within them. It's promising that there seem to be more, I'm just hoping that they're enjoyable. Next, music. If the trailer is any indication, the soundtrack does seem to have more intrigue and personality than Midnight in Salem, which is great. There is still quite a bit of repetition involved in the tracks, and I will say that basically nothing about the music makes me think of Prague, two things that I think could have been improved. The tracks sound mysterious and often intense, but I don't know that they're doing much to set the scene besides the tracks getting louder and more bombastic in dangerous moments. On first impressions, this seems like a soundtrack that I'll probably only consider fine at best and forgettable at worst, but we'll have to see how the music accompanies the game before I can make any final verdicts. As far as gameplay, navigation, and performance, I feel like there could be good news and bad news. The good news is that Her Interactive has confirmed that they are trying out a dual navigation system in this game, so players can choose whether they want to navigate with a traditional point-and-click format or by moving freely around the environment. Considering that Midnight in Salem had a weird sort of whooshing movement, this already sounds like a huge improvement. I'll have to wait and see which navigation I'll choose, but I'm guessing I'll go for the more free-range style. Some additional gameplay good news has been confirmed through teasers in the past year. Things like the addition of a camera, the return of a detective journal, the return of cookies and references to past games, and the return of second chances. All of these elements were absent in Midnight in Salem, but really contribute to a game feeling like a legitimate Nancy Drew game. They bring character and familiarity, and having them back is a huge plus that I am so excited for. The bad news here is that I am concerned about how well this game will run on average or simpler computer systems. Midnight in Salem was a nightmare to run on basically all computers except high-end gaming computers, but the graphics and the gameplay did not support that it should have been necessary. This basically means that there were a ton of optimization and performance issues, something that several fellow detectives with far more computer experience than I have said looks like it could be happening again. They point to the fact that there are many environments without proper lighting and shadows, which probably means that they had to take those elements out in order for the game to run at all. If this is the case, the game may not run well on a lot of computer systems, which severely limits how many people can play the game. This is a huge issue for an indie company that already has a smaller fan base, so I really hope that things run better this time around than they did with Midnight in Salem. Now we can start talking about the meatier aspects of the game, the environments, the characters, and the story. Let's start with the environments, which, yes, thankfully, do appear to be better than those in Midnight in Salem. There are some locations shown in the trailer that I'm especially excited about, and I hope they look as good in-game as they did in the trailer, namely the courtyard, the exterior of the cathedral, and the spooky, ancient hidden library, which could be an old study or perhaps an alchemy lab. There are other environments like the cafe and the tech store that don't really thrill me. They look too flat, like there will be very little to interact with or explore. Then there are some locations that could work, and I really hope work, like the jewelry store, a space that potentially looks like a museum or perhaps an archive, and whatever is going on with the underground tunnels. To summarize, I'm intrigued overall by the environments. They appear to have a lot more attention to detail, they look more crisp, and the lighting seems better overall, even if there are a couple of locations that might underwhelm me. What I really, really, really hope for in the environments, though, is that they have clues. I want to be able to explore these environments, interact with objects, read books, and most importantly, find clues. The trailer seems to indicate that Nancy can pick more things up, but I'm so curious to see how many of these things we actually find through legitimate snooping versus just having them handed to us. This is one of my biggest hopes for the game. Please let there be clues. Next, characters. In any game that I play, and with the Nancy Drew games in particular, characters and story are the two most important things to me because that is where the story lies. Ultimately, a game can run like butter and look like a dream, but if the story is weak and the characters are forgettable or underdeveloped, then the game simply isn't going to work for me. Unfortunately, going into this game, even though I have a lot that I'm looking forward to, these two most crucial components are the ones that make me the most nervous. For characters, I'll share my positive take first, namely that the characters do look better than the ones from Midnight in Salem. But the rest of my thoughts in this area are reservations. First, even though they do look better, I still do not think the characters look good. I'm having a hard time getting past the soulless eyes and the fact that most of them only move their mouths when they speak and nothing else. Facial expressions are limited, and the body movements still have this odd, uncanny valley effect that we saw in Midnight in Salem. They look like maybe they're not swaying though, so that's at least good. Still, I can't get past the fact that the texture and shadowing on several of the characters is off. Like this character's flat, oddly shaped hair with no movement, or the eyebrows that look like they're levitating off Elka's forehead, or this guy with the weirdly flat shadowing on his face. I can grant some grace and consider this game like the Stay Tuned for Danger of the original series, where the team has had minimal experience with graphics, and so the characters aren't quite right yet. I just can't help but notice it though, and I confess it is pretty distracting for me. Second reservation, there are 9 characters. Normally, I would be really excited about having such a large cast of suspects, but Midnight in Salem also had a large cast and really suffered from character underdevelopment, probably because they were just spread too thin and didn't dedicate enough time to each one. This version of Her Interactive hasn't really demonstrated to me yet that they can pull off a big cast successfully, so I'm nervous that at least half the characters will end up being forgettable or feeling superfluous, like what happened in Midnight in Salem. I sincerely hope that I'm wrong, so I will cross my fingers and we shall see. Third reservation, the gosh darn background characters are repeating again. This is a huge pet peeve of mine. In Midnight in Salem, literal clones were walking, standing, and sitting around the town square, and it looks like Mystery of the Seven Keys is doing the exact same thing. I understand that having background characters is supposed to make a game feel more realistic, rather than just having a virtually empty train station in Glasgow or an abandoned tech center lobby in Kyoto. But the problem is that populating a town with quintuplets also does not make a game feel more realistic. It pulls me out of the realism and setting of the game and blatantly reminds me that I'm playing a game instead of allowing me to immerse myself fully and experience things. Long story short, this really irks me. Final reservation, the voice acting. I know I'm not alone in this, and I truly am trying to extend as much grace and understanding as I possibly can. Maybe it's the script, maybe it's the direction, but something is really off with how Nancy speaks in the trailer of this game and how she spoke in Midnight in Salem. The way she narrates things around her feels like an AI trying to narrate a real person's experience, like it's fake and over-exaggerated. The tone and inflection always seem to be a bit off, and I hope it's maybe just the trailer, but I'm nervous that Nancy herself is going to distract me by sounding strange, and it's not a great sign if the main character is throwing you off. And finally, let's talk story. On the Her Interactive Mystery of the Seven Keys webpage, they posted a blurb explaining the story that reads, "Get ready for a thrilling blend of adventure, mystery, and history in the latest installment of the award-winning Nancy Drew Games series, Nancy Drew Mystery of the Seven Keys." This all-new 3D game experience transports players to the heart of the historic city of Prague as they assume the role of famous detective Nancy Drew. Tasked with uncovering the truth behind the theft of a client's heirloom necklace, players will navigate and sleuth through the beautiful city's mysterious old-world environments. Encounter challenging puzzles, decode riddles, and discover clues entwined with medieval legends, alchemy, and lore. As the investigation deepens, Nancy uncovers a sinister web of cybercrime. Players must outwit devious suspects and use their detective skills to unravel a mystery threatening the city's bohemian heritage. Danger and intrigue at every turn add to the suspense, as the criminals stop at nothing to prevent you from bringing the truth to light. Your investigative and critical thinking skills are crucial to solving the case and discovering the real mystery behind the legend of the Seven Keys. I'm glad they have this blurb on their website because honestly, I was a little confused after the trailer. It seems like there is a lot going on, and I worry that the game won't be able to make everything come together cohesively. We have jewel theft, medieval legends, alchemy, lore, cybercrime, threats to Prague's bohemian heritage, and some sort of supernatural element with moving suits of armor and an ethereal black smoke. My guess is that having so many story elements means that the gameplay will be longer, but it also means that the task of creating a cohesive, meaningful, deep, and intriguing story becomes more difficult. The story of Midnight in Salem fell woefully flat, particularly because it seemed pulled between the supernatural element and the drama between Salem's residents. Mystery of the Seven Keys seems to be going for a similar angle, so I hope that this time around it's improved. It's hard to make any predictions or judgments about a story until I'm actually immersed in it, however, so once again, I will reserve my final judgments until I play the game. Now that we've covered all the main game components, I feel it is necessary to point out that basically all of my critiques and hopes are based on comparison to Midnight in Salem, not the original Nancy Drew series. As a fervent lover of the original 32 games, I just don't know that these newer iterations can stack up. But that's only because Midnight in Salem was such a disappointment. On that note, the Her Interactive that we have now is a different company from the one that made the original series. The staff is different, the platform is different, the priorities are different, and the funding is different. So really, it's difficult to think of Mystery of the Seven Keys in terms of Nancy Drew. I can really only think of it in terms of Midnight in Salem. It's difficult to explain, but I hope that makes sense. This is basically the second game in the postmodern Nancy Drew era. It's practically an entirely new series. And while it seems like they are honoring and paying homage to the originals, which I sincerely appreciate, I have to recognize that this new series is not the same. If Midnight in Salem was Secrets Can Kill, then Mystery of the Seven Keys is Stay Tuned for Danger. And I have to admit that there was a huge leap in quality from Secrets Can Kill to Stay Tuned for Danger, which means we could also see a huge leap in quality for Mystery of the Seven Keys. I am hopeful for a lot of features in this game, and you all know me, I won't shy away from constructive criticism where it is necessary. I simply cannot wait to get my hands on this game. I'm so excited to play it, and I'm even more excited to make content for you all and discuss Mystery of the Seven Keys with you all. Good news, we don't have long to wait. So there you have it, fellow detectives. My final predictions, hopes, and dreams for Nancy Drew, number 34, Mystery of the Seven Keys. What part of the game are you looking forward to, and what aspects look like they'll be successful? What parts of the game are you nervous for, and what aspects of the game look like they still need improvement? Let a Wizard Kitten know in the comments section down below. If you really enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button or tipping me for the video with a super thanks next to the download button right beneath the video. If you would like to come join a fantastic group of fellow detectives at Mystique Manor as a patron for the channel, gain access to exclusive content, and support the making of more content like this, please check out patreon.com/wizardkitten. I also have channel memberships with exclusive badges and emojis to use during streams and in the comment section. If you'd like to support the channel by becoming an official fellow detective, click join next to the subscribe button. Please feel free to follow the channel on Instagram or Discord, linked in the description box down below. And as always, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more Nancy Drew and Cozy Game content. Thank you so much for watching, fellow detectives. I will see you soon.